So it's Friday the 13th, November 13th, and we're going to do Analyze together. So this is a screen share right now, and if you go to November 13th, you will find a JPEG of the Beethoven we're going to analyze and the Mozart we're going to analyze. You should download those, print them, and this is going to be one of those times where we work alongside each other. If this was a face-to-face class, you'd get this. I would analyze with you, and you'd sort of get to do the work and also see how I approach this to help do more than just spell chords, but inform the way you approach analyzation. And so we're going to do this. Truthfully, you can take the weekend for this, even though it says today. But you will have to log in at some point and do a quiz reporting how you did. Also, there are links to YouTube videos so you can hear them. And honestly, we're not going to do that much of them. We're just going to do a little bit of each of these, and then we'll talk about a few other assignments. I'm going to stop my screen share here. So we're only going to do this much right here, okay? And we're only going to do of the Mozart. We'll see, at least to here, but maybe to there. We'll see how that goes. And I'm not going to risk getting flagged by YouTube by playing the videos, but you should do this right now. Pause my video, go play this section up to there. It's very quick. It's only like 3 or 4 seconds, several times until you get used to bum 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 bum. So that's in your head, and you can hear the chords and things. So go on. Oh wait, I'm immortal in this video. Okay, I'm going to presume you did that. So the goal of this is to get a little more practice under your belt for doing figured bass and chord analysis. And yeah, we'll just do this together. So if the title didn't give it away, this is in F minor, right? But hopefully you heard that. So we're going to be in F minor. I'm going to put F minor right there because that gives us context for all the chords we're going to do. And we can see that Beethoven has this little melodic gesture. It's a motive. It arpeggiates up and does this high note with a little triplet down to there. And then he does it again on a different chord. And then to finish the phrase, he takes the end and does it twice and then cadences. It's typical Beethoven. He loves a germ idea called a motive, or a small little something that he can build the rest of the piece out of. And right now his texture is pretty clean for us right there. So this should be fairly easy. You can see this is a chord, that's a chord shape, that's a chord shape, here's a chord shape, there's a chord shape, there's a chord shape, and finally there as well. Yeah, let's try this. So one thing that you should think about ahead of time is if you're not fully conversant with the chords in F minor, then you should write some out, right? And I'm going to do that with you, but you should always be doing this until you just go like, F minor, I know this guy or girl like the back of my hand, right? So your one chord is going to be, F, A flat, and C. Your 5 chord with a 7th is going to be C, E natural, because of the harmonic minor, G. And if we have the 7th, it'll be a B flat. All of this corresponds with the key signature except for this note right here, because the harmonic minor makes that different. Now, if we see notes that are other than E natural that are chromatically altered here, we maybe have to consider that we've changed key or something. But for right now, I think we're fine. Like in the second phrase, you can see that we've changed, what we're doing here, and it might be different, but we're not going to get into that right now. This is just how do we do this? All right, so I'm going to pay attention to the chords and then use this to confirm 7ths or that what I have is right. And I see an F, A flat, and a C. A flat, this is the key signature. That's an F minor chord, and that's 1. It's a triad. There's no 7th up there. There's no E flat. This is a decorative note, and it's not even an E flat. It's just like, let's dip down for a second and come back. So it's a triad, and it's in root position because the lowest note is an F. I don't need to write anything there. Okay. Here, I've got E, G, B flat, and C. This E natural tips me off that we're using the harmonic minor scale. this is a 5 chord or a 7 chord, and I suspect that will be, you know, 5s. And sure enough, remember our worksheet that we did on closed stacks and said, I've got 2 notes that are right beside each other like this, so this is the root. It's going to serve us well right here. It wasn't just torture, it was training. Okay, C, E natural, G, B flat. That's my 5/7 chord. So I'm going to put an uppercase 5. Now, thirds in the bass. And if this was a triad, I'd just put a 6. But with a 7th on the chord, the figured bass is 6/5. You have to know this by now. If not, we've identified something for you to fix this weekend, right? Go back to that table in your textbook and recognize that if the chord that we're looking at is a 7th chord, like it's got a 7th on it, and the thirds in the bass, there's your figured bass right there. You don't have to put 5/7 and 6/5 because this tells us that there's a 7th there already, okay? This is the same thing here. And you notice that if it's not a test where there's like put an answer here, put an answer here, put an answer here, we just leave this until it changes, right? So you could go like this, I guess, if you wanted to, like that, right? But you don't have to, right? It makes sense that until we change something up, it's all the same. And then here it looks like the F stack again. So Beethoven is doing his thing. 1s and 5s and 1s. All right, let's check this out right here. Here's my E natural again. So that makes me think this is a dominant type chord, the dominant 7 chord, the dominant triad, or the leading tone chord, right? And, you know, we have notes up top that we have to consider as well. So here's an E, G, and a B flat. And if that was everything, then that would be a 7 chord. We should take a look up here and consider, there's my G and my B flat. These look like transient notes between. But what about that little note right there? Do we hear it? Does it count? And I think the answer about the grace note is yes, it counts. Because we go, ba-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-dum. It's definitely heard. It's, even though it's tiny, right? Like hobbits. They affect the world even though they're small, right? That's part of it. So C, E, G, B flat. This is a 5/7 chord. Good old Beethoven, 1s and 5s, right? But now the inversion's different. The 5th is in the bass. So we're going to write a 5 right here. Remember, uppercase Roman numeral. And do you know the figured bass for this? If you can write it down quickly before I do it, then that's good. If you're waiting or you're not sure, this is an indication you don't know your figured bass well enough. And there's only one person that can teach you that, and that's you. You have to just put in some time, right? Okay, finally we get to here. We got 3 more different looking chord stacks to look at, and I think we've got an A flat and a C and an F. Maybe you're going like, really? Well, you can go back and brush up on bass clef notes. Everything that we've trained to do has not just been because there's a checklist of stuff. I mean, there is a checklist of stuff, but they all help us so that we're fluent at looking at these things. Whenever you find a place that you were like, I can't read extension notes very well in a certain clef, that comes up the whole works, right? You think about any kind of technical machine, like a car or a computer or something, it can have like everything working fine, but if one area is glitchy, it slows down or kind of really upends the function of everything else. You can have a car that's 99% fine. All the systems work, everything's nice, the upholstery is beautiful, the engine's pristine, except one spark plug of your 4-cylinder spark plugs is fouled up and isn't firing, and all of a sudden the car will still run, but it runs kind of crummy with not as much power as it should, and it sputters and things like that. Well, that's like not being able to read your bass clef or your high notes. So it's worth to go back, right? This is not trying to say, oh, you suck. It's trying to say, let's identify the few things, because you know most of this, the few things that might be holding you back from being like a theory giant, right? Where you just go, I love theory because I'm good at it, right? So F, A flat, C, right? It's a 1 chord, right? So 1 chord, but now the A flat is the lowest note and it's a triad. So we have to put a 6 right there like that. Cool. If this was a 1 chord in first inversion with this shape, this is going to be a 2 chord. See, the shape is the same and it's just moving parallel. So if this was 1 in first inversion, that's going to be 2 in first inversion. Don't believe me? Let's check. G, B flat, D. Yep. And sorry, D flat actually. So 2 chords are diminished, right? And then you'll put a 6 for first inversion. Now, I guess the question is, does this count, the F right there? And because then it would be G, B flat, D flat, and F, which would be half diminished. And I think the answer is, yep, it counts. We heard it here, so it's in our ears. We hear it again. So it's in our ears when we hit this already. We hear it here. And in fact, it actually holds over as a non-chord tone and then resolves down to the chord right there. So it's not nothing. And so this is actually a half diminished. And that means we have to change our figured bass to 6/5 rather than 6. Okay. This is gobbledygook. This is this holding over. It's called a suspension. We learn about that next term. And then it resolves down. And here we have our chord. We have a C, an E, and a G. And again, the E natural is just the tip off. That's going to be your 5 chord or your 7 chord. And it's indeed your 5 chord. Just like that. Congratulations. We have analyzed Beethoven. Go back and listen to it again. Feel good about yourself. Hopefully this all made sense. And if something, again, was slow or sticky, that's great news, because now you go, if I just fix this or I fix that, my ability to do analysis in real time at teacher speed will be great, like really good. Okay, so there's that. Second movement of the Mozart. Different texture, kind of weird. You really need to go listen to this a few times so that you can hear bum, 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 and recognize that this is where our line ends right there. And then it goes, jum, ba-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, bum, bum. I think we'll just stop right there. Okay. But it's because the texture doesn't present itself obviously for chords. It's not as easy as the Beethoven, right? So this is another place where working with a teacher or somebody who's got more experience will help you here. Yeah, for instance, if you've listened to this a few times, and like I said, just pause me and go listen to it a few times, but you'll hear that this is a cadence point, but that the next phrase doesn't actually start here. And this is a link. It doesn't really factor in to either phrase. It just joins them together, right? So that's important to know. All right, this is in a major key. 3 flats, looks like E flat major. There's my E flat, my G, and my B flat. So we're gonna do this right here. E flat major. Now I didn't put MIJ because uppercase just defaults to thinking major. I put minor on the other one so that it was easy to tell that that was minor. You might want to take a moment here and start thinking about, the chords in this. And this is going to be more difficult, partly because of texture, but partly because there's a bunch of chords in here that are not in the key. And so, how are we going to approach them? We're going to do a combination of I'll explain them away and we'll ignore them too. Okay. So anyhow, here we go. First chord here, E flat, G, B flat. Notice I didn't spell your chords for you here. You go ahead and do that. Okay. That looks like a 1 chord. Do we care about all these other things? I don't think so. I think these are passing down to there, which are part of this, and these are jumping up and then ornamenting there. I think it's just E flat, G, B flat, and these are double pairs of non-chord tones. Okay, here we are again with our 1 chord right there. I'm going to put it here because we're going to analyze every one of these beats. Now let's look at this chord right here, F, F, A flat. Is it a 2 chord? Is it a 3 chord? In truth, it's an incomplete 7 chord. There should be a D in the mix there, but we don't see it. It's not actually written in. But the idiom would be 1, 7, and then 1, 6, right? That being said, and that's the proper way to do this. So if you really wanted to do this and you knew about this, you'd be like 1, 7 diminished, 6 in first inversion, and this is 1, 6 right here for these. But let's be very literal about this for this analysis at the level that we're at right now, and just say, well, this looks like a 2 chord, right? It could be an incomplete. We'll just put that right there. But it's passing, so we're going to put it in brackets right there. It's not an important chord, it's filling the glue in. And then here's my 1, 6 right there. And I'm just going to put a 6 there because this is carrying through like that. Okay. All right. So here is a chord right here that has 2 chromatic notes in it, as an E natural, which is really not an E flat, and a D flat, which is also not an E flat. And we're just going to ignore it for right now. We're going to make a little headroom, and then I'll come back and talk about them. But putting a bubble around something that you don't understand is not a bad strategy sometimes, because you want to see the things that are in the key, what we call diatonic or notes from the key, the structural things that belong. Like here's another place where we've got, the E flat's back, but there's an A natural, and that's not in the key. And so we're going to look at this chord right here, and we're going to look at this chord right here. And then later we'll come back and try and explain what these are. And I'll do it in a sort of general way for you so you don't get stuck too far into the weeds in terms of technical things. But this is F, A flat, and C. That looks like a 2, right? F, A flat, C, and there's my C, and then we walk down the scale. So this is a 2 chord, F, A flat, C, and it's got the A flat in the bass. So our chord progression is 1, 2, right? And if you've been paying attention or you hang out till next term, you'll find out that 2 likes to go to 5. We're not going to deal with this chord right here. It's got non-chord tone and stuff, but we are going to deal with what this is right here. This is a B flat. There's my D. Any guesses on what that is? Can you read your low ledger lines? It's an F, isn't it? So B flat chord, which is my 5, which makes sense because 2 likes to go to 5. And we like to begin and end our phrases on 1s and 5 chords. They're nice and stable. This is a link. It's just taking us back up here, and we'll start a new phrase here. E flat, G, B flat. That looks like the 1 chord to me. Is this important? Well, you hear it and play it, but it doesn't function in the chord. So it's just this, it's like we're going D, E, F, G, A, B, C before we get there. That's okay. How about right here? This looks like a different stack. This is bum, ba-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. So we have a C, E flat, and a G. C, E flat, and a G. This is Mozart being Mozart, jumping down the chord, but throwing a little flavor note in there, right? It's not like, it's like, here's your burger. Oh, and there's onions and lettuce and tomatoes right there. So this is a C chord in the key of E flat. That would be a 6 chord. 6 chords are minor, and it's in first inversion, right? E flat's in the bass. All right. So let's look ahead now. We have F, C, and B flat. And that's confusing because that's not usually a thing, right? This is an F chord outlined here, which is our 2 chord, but then you have a non-chord tone right there, or it's ambiguous. Well, this is where having a teacher is good. 6 likes to go to 2, and this is 2. And this here is just, it's like trilling, B flat, C, B flat, C, B flat, C, B flat, C, A. And so I think this is fine to call the 2 chord right here, right? It's just that it has the trills, actually this note right there, it's trilling back and forth between these, creating tension, which will hopefully release here. B flat, 2 likes to go to 5, we should expect a 5 here. B flat, D, no F, curiously, but there's my A flat, right? So I'll write this here for you. Your 5 chord in this key is B flat, D, F, and A flat. You don't have to have every note of every chord all the time. In this case, because it's coming from a 2 into this, we expect it to be a 5. Because we're in the key of E flat, we expect this to be a 5 sound. And we have our B flat and D, which is enough to tell us it's going to be this chord. And in this texture, he only wanted 3 notes, not 4. And when it sort of push came to shove, they said, sorry, F, we only have 3 tickets to this and you're not coming. Or it could have been like, doctor, we have appendicitis. We need to remove, okay, just get rid of the F. It's like your appendix or your tonsils. Nice to have, can live without. Okay, so it's just incomplete, right? B flat, D, F, A flat. All the other things, the key that we're in, so the number of the chord, the 2 chord coming here, the fact that we've had a pattern like this before, the fact that we know as we get more experience that the 5th of the chord is the least important note, so it gets dropped sometimes, point us to the fact that this would be a 5 chord with a 7th and some root position. So we just have to put the 7 on there. Okay, now we would expect to have a 1 chord following this, and it's so close, and yet it's not. Okay, have a look at this. So it looks like it's going to be coming down to, E flat and G, right? E flat, but look at this C right here. So let's just check this out for a minute. If I have a C and an E flat and a G, right? Then this is a C, E flat, G chord. That's another 6 chord like over here, right? Normally 5 goes to 1. When we talk more about chord progression, like what chord goes to what chord, we'll find that in addition to 5 normally going to 1 to finish things off, sometimes 5 goes to 6 or some other chord, but usually 6. To say, haha, made you look, you thought we were going to 1, but we're not. And go back and listen to this, and it's quite delightful. You have this trill and this 5/7 chord, and you think, oh, we're done. And then it's like, nope, haha, we're not. These are not important notes. They are connecting. That's right there, okay? All right, so 6, right? At this point, I'm going to use my superpowers to jump ahead in time and just come over here and show you how it ends. We have E flat and E flat. That's 1, right? And then you see it's even arpeggiating an E flat chord here. So we're going to end on 1 right there, okay? So we would expect to find a 5 chord just before that, right? And this is my 5 chord right here, the dominant thing pushing here. But if you look, B flat, G, and E flat is not 5, it's a 1 chord. But look at that 1 right there. The 5th is in the bass, and we've talked about this before, although it's not officially testable material yet. When you flip triad over into second inversion, the 5th's in the bass, it loses its identity and takes it from wherever it's attached to or around. This is a very common, like the most common idiom of this, where we put a 1 chord with the 5th in the bass, which is sol, right, or 5. And then we resolve these notes up or down to make it be a 5 chord. And we don't actually think of this as a 1 chord. We think of it as a decorated part of the 5 chord or an attached slaved part to that chord. But let's take a look. This B flat goes through, B flat, D, F, and A flat. This here is a hangover from there, but everything else has approach. So the G here is echoed right there briefly, but the D goes down to there for the 3rd of the chord. And there's my 5th of the chord, and this comes up and grabs the 7th right there. This is a 5 with a 7th right there. So this whole thing right here is my 5 chord leading to the 1. All right, what likes to go to 5? Well, we've seen 2 like to go there a lot. 4 can also go there. Let's take a look at what we have here. We have A flat and A flat. Now, we do have a B natural, which makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, it's chromatic, it's not in the key. But I think this is Mozart being tricky, like he did here again. There, right? Let's see, he goes beep boo da, right? And these are running down. And if you look, we've got A flats and C's and A flats and F, right? And Mozart, you know, it's like, why change it? If you change it, there has to be a reason. Sorry, if you change the chords, there has to be a reason. He'd rather change the texture and the setup, right? And then give us something harmonically new that would perk up our ears and go, huh, that doesn't really quite fit. 6 went to 2, 6 is going to 2, 2 goes to 5, 2 goes to 5, 2 is going to 5, F, A flat, C. We're going to ignore that right there. It's one of those, hey, I'm Mozart. See, I put a funny note there and I go into the chord. I put a funny note here, and then I go into the chord, right? So, yeah. All right. This is F, A flat, C. It's a 2 chord. And A flat being in the bass, that means it's in first inversion. So there you go. All right. At its heart, it's 1, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. 6, 2, 5. 1. It has a very common recurring thing. I hope that doesn't spoil Mozart for you and you go like, ah, wait, he's just repeating the same thing. Of course he is. We all do. He just does it so much better than us that you have to do hardcore analysis to go and find that because it's so interwoven and overlaced with all these beautiful other things going on. Remember, the chords is only one level of structure. We could talk about the lines themselves and the use of motives and ornamentation and non-chord tones. And there's so much going on that Mozart's juggling all at the same time. Guy's a stupid genius. Okay, so good. All right, now before we leave this, and go back and talk about these 2 chords here. Sometimes you have notes that don't mean anything except they give flavor to the line, and they're not in the key, and they're not in the chord, and that's fine. Like here's a good one. We would normally just go E flat, D, and then come down to the C. But Mozart wants this chromatic kind of sounding thing, so he does this a lot where he goes E flat, D, and then he'll put another half step down, and that would connect us to there. So that half step is a Mozartism. This other thing of saying, we didn't quite get where you thought we were going to do, let's undercut it by a half step, like you did there. We're going to the E flat, no, let's undercut it with a half step, right? We're going to the F, no, let's undercut it with a half step. That happens a lot with him. It's flavor. It's the thing you make you go like, I think it's Mozart, right? And a lot of times it doesn't amount to anything in terms of a chord, but sometimes you do harmonize those with chords. And we can take a look at what that chord is without worrying too much, okay, about how to name it. Although I'll show you how that works too. It's not important for this level of your education to be able to name it perfectly. You've got other things on your plate. But this chord right here, I'm just going to tell you is E, G, which is missing, B flat, and D flat, okay? Again, he only has a 3-voice or 3-part texture. He's got to drop one of those notes out. Let's take a look at this. E natural, G, B flat, and D flat. Well, this is an E diminished 7 chord, right? And if this was an E diminished 7th chord and it was functioning like that, the leading tone 7 chord that it is, then this would be 7 and F minor would be 1 right there, which is exactly what it does. So this here is an E diminished 7, right? It actually is functioning as, I'm going to just put this up here, and if you don't get it, don't worry about it, but it's actually functioning as now look, the 5th of the chord, the B flats in the bass. So I'm going to call it an E diminished 4/3 of the 2 chord. So it's like this is 7 for this, not 7 in this key, 7 for that. And that's what happens. He said, okay, we're coming up to this note. We're going to do the tricky Mozart thing where we don't go to the note, but go a half step below and then come back up, just like we did there and there, and here, right? But in this case, he's able to harmonize it completely with a full chord, like the 7 of F, okay? This is a 2nd year thing. Don't worry about it, but that's what it is right there. Okay, let's take a look at this guy right here. We're going to a B flat chord, right? Going to a B flat chord, A, E flat. What's this note here? G, right? Okay, and then B flat's here. All right, so is this part of the chord? Is this part of the chord? Well, I think what happens here is this is him being tricky again. Like, look, we're supposed to be going to B flat, so I'm going to go from my A flat to my A to my B flat. He's doing these half step game instead of going down by half steps. He's coming up by half steps because A flat goes to A, goes to B. So this is a non-consequential note in terms of the chord. But now let's take a look at this. B flat and E flat and G. That's like a 1, 6, 4, right? E flat, G, B flat. This is also just a bobble. And so just like he did here, oh, look, he's doing the same thing again. He likes the sound of saying, I'm going to land on my 5 chord, but first I'll decorate it with a inverted 1 chord right there. Okay, and that's what it is. Now, some people will be looking at this going, wow, that's cool. And some people in the back of their mind are going like, I'll never understand that. Please don't test me on it. And you're worried more about evaluation and judgment than you are about like the wonderment of learning. So because of that, let me be clear. This is very complicated and also very doable. If we were to do 10 of these, okay, you'd get very comfortable with them, assuming that the integral smaller parts, reading notes, spelling chords, looking at textures, is there for you, knowing your figured bass. So it will get better over time. For your testing, you're going to have something more like this, although there may be more chords than this, right? Where you'll see more easily defined textures, right? And for your testing, if I were to give you something like this, I would draw like a circle around that and say, ignore. And I'd also say like, this is your entire chord here, and this is a chord, and ignore that. And this is a chord, and this is a chord. And you know what I mean? Like we would filter this for you to make it skill appropriate. So don't worry about that so much. Rather, enjoy the process of saying, you see Mozart uses patterns. He gets things that he likes, flavors, motifs, writing like idioms and idiosyncrasies. And now you're starting to get to know him better while improving your other skills. Do an inventory for yourself though. Do you have problems reading ledger lines? Okay, right? We've spent some time on them. That doesn't mean you're an expert or that it's stuck, because maybe you need to go through and do it a couple times. So we can practice that. That is, you can practice that. Ask yourself, do you know what the chord symbols are for the scales? Everybody can always improve on that, but if you find you're really deficient in thinking that way, you got to go back to those quizzes and practice that some more and think about it like this. And then finally, does it take you a long time to figure out your figured bass? Or do you have both what the numbers are for, but then thinking about the chord in inversions and what part translates to that? Is there some linking that goes on there? Honestly, if you have the ability to read your notes really well, spell your chords, right? And then know your scales and your chord numbers and figured bass, like those 4.5 things, really, really well done and practiced, then everything else becomes easy. It's kind of like saying, if you can do your basic swimming really, really well, then every pond and lake and beach is a joy, right? Even if you wouldn't go and do crazy dangerous things out there, right? Similarly, if your basic 4 or so functional skills are great, then it doesn't really matter what piece or what exercise we do, you're happy. And if you're struggling with them and you're like, oh, that really is crappy, then you know that it's one of those areas, right? Be realistic, it's like how fast can you be and how solid can you be after a couple weeks, or in this case like 7 weeks, and think about how far you've come, and then be thoughtful and directed as you go there. Okay, all right. I think we're going to end that now. So if you're looking at this in the future and you're saying, what's this next part? This next part is term specific, so you can just turn off the video now, unless I tell you to watch through here. But here's some of the things that I need you to do. I need you to finish your figure it out worksheet. This is the figured bass worksheet, right? You have to do that this weekend. Like, don't wait till Sunday night. Okay, this should be, something you're working on. all videos of every line are up there. So you have to finish this. You'll have to report on that on the weekend, okay? And now I want you to go, this is ear training, but I want you to go over to Tone Savvy, and I want you to work on major sixth and minor sixth down, okay? I'm gonna flip to share screen right now, and we're gonna go there. So, let's just take this guy right here, go to tonesavvy.com, and we're gonna work on intervals. So we're gonna go to ear training practice intervals. And what we want is custom, and we don't want anything but minor sixes and major sixes. So, 50% chance of just guessing and getting it right, but we want to get a little better at that. And well, we're going to have to show advanced options in a minute. Okay, so these are going up, and we don't want going up right now. We want descending to begin with, right? Because if you can hear it going down, then you'll be able to sing it and go up. Let's stop quiz and start up. Bum. Hopefully you can sing those. That's something you should be practicing. Bum, bum. Okay. Now, if you, I'm going to give you some songs. Take the A Train. It's a jazz song, and you can go look this up on YouTube. Ba-do-do-do. Dee, do, 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 do. Okay, that's the beginning of this. It goes ba-do-do-do. Dee, do. That's descending minor six, or major six, sorry, major six. Right? Dee, do, do, dee, do. Okay, and then there's a song I can't remember the name of. It goes, some girls like to run, some old 50s or 60s song, like to run around. And I will put that up as a link as well. And then some girls, right? That's also a descending major six. When we do these, it really helps if you have a song that goes along with this. Also, if you capture this and go upwards, this is N, B, C, right? Or my Bonnie lies over the ocean, right? My bon is also major sixth going up. Or bum, bum, ba, da, da, dum, the first two notes of the Star Wars Princess Leia theme, right? Is also Princess Leia theme. First two notes, right? So that can help if you capture them and sing them in the other direction. All right, that's a major sixth. All right, let's hear the next one. Bum, bum. So is the upward song that we all learned. Go look up 100 years. 100 years. See if I can even find it for you. 100 years. This is a minor six going down, and it happens so much. There we go. Just a little bit of it. Oh, great. Ads. Maybe a few of them. Immortalized forever. Here we go.
We are being censored.
No, we're not.
America's news outlets no longer provide the truth.
We are being censored because we want this other song. Okay. Da da na na da da da. That's your minor six. Is a minor six going down. Okay. And when he gets to sing it, let's see if we can find that spot. Intro. Yeah. I'm 15. That's a minor six. Now, there are other minor six songs, of course, but this is a good one to start with because it happens all the time in the song. All right. Anyhow, we'll go back to Tone Savvy, and you need to start practicing this. Okay. Practice the tone savvy for like, gosh, what I'd love ideally is if you did like 5 to 10 minutes 2 times a day. I feel like I'm writing you a prescription. Yeah, if you'll rub this on your skin 2 times a day, or if you'll do these little exercises to fix your carpal tunnel, 5 to 10 minutes 2 times a day, right? Like do it in the morning and do it again at the evening, right? So you have like about 5, 6 hours between it, and then your sleep cycle, and then you get up and you do it again. You just get really, really good at this. Along with just guessing, you want to try and sing the notes that go along with it and then sing them backwards too. It's pretty easy when you have only two intervals, but then when we put perfect fifths and then we put minor and major sevenths with them, then it gets trickier. So even if you say like I got these, put in the time. And again, I'll put up a quiz probably on Monday, asking on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, how many did you, and Monday, because it'll be at the end of Monday before we do our next um, ear training class. It'll be there for that. Okay, so those two things are important, and of course, your melodic dictations are due as well, right? Okay, thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this was helpful both as learning and teaching, but also diagnostic for what you can go over and fix so that these things get really great. I am available to you all the time. If you want to go over stuff with me, shoot me a Canvas message, and then I'll try and get back with you, and we'll triangulate on a time to Zoom together. Have a great weekend otherwise, and we will see you later.